Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Sunday once again. A very warm welcome back to MI6, the Merchandise Vault. As you can see, I am joined by two guests once again this morning, Timothy and Robert. And we all know what that means at some sad point in the very near future of this episode. But it is what it is. But I'm going to have to remove these because today, like the George Lazenby on Her Majesty's Secret Service episode, I have recently watched and enjoyed both Timothy Dalton movies, The Living Daylights and Licence to Kill. And as I was watching both movies, these light little kind of nuggets of hopeful possible merchandise ideas moving forward with Amazon this year into the next year and possibly the release year. Of possible things that they could do, whether it be at a more cost-effective basis or something a little highbrow. Because personally, I feel, I love what the 007 store do, but sometimes it still feels quite a niche market, and I don't mean that in terms of cost. Because the items are great. I mean, there is like under £10 items, don't get me wrong, and also, I fully take that on board. But it's kind of things like whether it's like Christmas tree decorations or whatever. I'm thinking more vehicles, figures, so on and so forth. But yeah, today's episode means I need to remove these. Hello. Put these on so I can actually see what I'm doing and what I'm reading. Hello. So, Living Daylights, Tim Dalton's first film. Plenty of action, great introduction. I love his introduction from the word go. Don't think I'd change anything about it really. It's just great Bond. There was a what if again, probably after Roger Moore had stepped down. Obviously he may have stayed a movie too long and all that jazz, but Roger's my Bond, so I'll cut him some slack on that. But yeah, so we move through the movie and the ideas. What have I got here? I've got 7 or 8 ideas. Like I've said before in that previous video, if you can get these, if they have made these items, not necessarily in this country, but abroad somewhere, I would do love to, see them, get in touch, and I can pop them on the Facebook page for other people to see. So moving forward, like I said before, I would love a bust of Timothy Dalton, a detailed bust, and I will echo it in all the other episodes like this. I just think they'd be terrific, to be honest. So, but yeah, the first one I came up with, they're kind of more, you could have kid versions of these. I'll highlight them as I go along, but the first one is definitely one, and that would be whether it's Factory Entertainment or whoever, would be the Q Ghetto Blaster. And I reckon that you could have, the kid version would be, it would open up and it could be like a Nerf gun type of scenario, but it'd be a Nerf missile. And you could have multiple rounds in it. I think that would be a great Christmas present, let alone any time, and this time of year. So yeah, a Ghetto Blaster from Q. Going on from that, I was thinking the exploding keychain that Q issues Bond with, and the sounds that you hear on the film, they could be obviously replicated on it. And when he does the wolf whistle, you could have like an explosion kind of sound just for a bit of fun. Definitely an exploding keychain. Now, there's the 2 types of binoculars. So the first one would be the foldable pair where Bond, you see him literally at the very beginning with his contact Saunders at the concert, where he spots Cara Malova. They kind of fold into a case. I remember my folks having one years ago. Probably the lens is not as good as Bond's on his camera, but yeah, a neat little kind of Q gadget, that one. The other one, you'd be forgiven to think that these binoculars would have fitted in the Roger Moore era, like what we saw in A View to a Kill, where he's kind of adjusting his lenses to penetrate the glass, looking into Max Zorin's office, where he's signing that check for Stacey Sutton. And yeah, he's sort of sat in his car, isn't he? Timothy Dalton is, where he's watching the arrival of General Pushkin, and he kind of adjusts them at the side of the glass. It really reminded me of the Roger Moore scene in A View to a Kill, but I thought they could be great fun. Another one would be for kind of watch fans. I know there's lots of watch fans out there that collect the watches. I have a couple of the movie ones, which I would like to increase moving forward, but that's kind of a long-term project. So Pushkin, I've put it down here as General Pushkin's SOS watch, where he goes to see his lady and Bond's already there, pushes him onto the bed and starts to interrogate him about what Koskov has claimed, that he was doing the spional. And he kind of cheekily folds his hands and slips the finger on the button to alert his guard. A nice watch there, so that could be a bit, I suppose it would be more of a highbrow thing. I mean, I don't know what it would be. I can't recall what the make was that John Rhys Davies was wearing for that part. It could be, well, it could have been anything, so let's be honest. So Pushkin's SOS watch. I kind of like the idea, you know, Kara's cuddly toy that Bond wins for her at Prater Park, where the guy's just thinking, just stop, and they get the toy. I thought that'd be a nice little thing to have replicated and be available to buy for kids young and old. The last, well, actually, I'm going to go for the final one I put down. There's nothing wrong with a bit of gross out, and I remember, although I've never actually been able to see it and handle it, a gross out one I thought could be fun would be the fake heart suitcase prop, where they basically drug Bond, and like this is where they take him and Kara to Afghanistan, and he's completely out cold in the back of the ambulance, and they come up with this elaborate scheme where they've got this organ which is meant to be a human heart, which it's not, and they're smuggling their opium deal diamonds in and amongst the ice. So I thought that would be a pretty cool thing to have. You could do it as a faithful replica, but you could also have it as a bit of a gross out toy, and the kids that can, you know, get the heart, squeeze it in your face, cover yourself in blood and God knows what. But yeah, another suitcase prop a la the From Russia with Love item. Final one for the Living Daylights, because this is the nice thing, you see, I've got two films that I was exercising my grey matter on. Is again at the beginning of the film, where they're doing the, well, they don't realise doing the fake kind of defection of Georgy Koskov, is when they leave the not the opera house but the concert hall, and they go to that building across the street, and Bond and Saunders just sat on the balcony window waiting for Koskov to make his move, and Bond's got this huge elaborate sniper's rifle, which is humongous. And again, I think that would be a great kid's toy, whether it be a water soaker, because I'm sure there was like a big canister underneath that was kind of, I'm not saying it was pump action, but it was like a huge cylinder and you could have that full of water. But also the option of it being also a Nerf rifle as well. So the kids could have the adults probably would as well, but the kids could have so much fun with that. And you tie that in with the Q Ghetto Blaster. Yeah, you could have yourself a little, what's the word? Extravagant commando unit. But yeah, Bond sniper rifle as a water soaker stroke Nerf gun rifle would provide hours of fun for adults and kids alike, especially this kid. I'd chase my wife and the kids around the house with it, and they'd probably have me sectioned. As long as they had me sectioned in here, that would be absolutely fine. So, moving on to License to Kill. So there wasn't as many ideas for this one. Obviously, License to Kill is a much kind of darker entry into the franchise and way ahead of its time. I think it was obviously competing with movies along the line of Die Hard, and had Die Hard come out by then? I think it might have done, but like Lethal Weapons and that kind of genre. So way ahead of like time in terms of what we got with Daniel Craig's 5 movies. But again, brilliant acting. Loved Dalton. Well, I love Dalton anyway. I love all the actors. I don't have any negative kind of feelings to any of them. And as for this guy here, I don't mean the iguana. The iguana. Robert Davi as Franz Sanchez. Absolute inspired choice. Really, really it was. And yeah, a pleasure to have spoken to and have met many, many years ago. Albeit for a brief period of time. Such a smashing guy. But I digress. This is a merchandise thing, isn't it? So there has been in the past models of the tanker truck. Not necessarily on a large scale. I have one here. It's no bigger than that. But what I would love to see is just the actual tanker itself, not the trailer. But the tanker itself, I don't know, it could be this size again, but the battered version after the chase would also have a little figure of Bond and, oh my goodness me, Kerry Lovell's Pam Bouvier. I know it'd come to me eventually. Pam Bouvier and James Bond in it at the very, very end. I think that would be a nice figure to have, because they don't have to be like amazingly detailed. With the James Bond car collection, not all the models, but some of the models have got like figures in them, and I just think something like that, just a tiny bit more detailed, would be a lovely piece to have, and it would certainly be in the vault here. Tying into that, now I know, because it's the end of the movie, Zippo did a number of lighters, and I'd like to see a recreation made available. I mean, they could be out there, I don't know. So do let me know. Of Felix Leiter's lighter, there's a tongue twister, that him and Della gave Bond at the beginning of the movie, at the wedding, or after the wedding, I should say. So that would be a nice little trinket. Seeing as I mentioned our friend the iguana here, I thought a fun little item that could be made would be like one of Franz Sanchez's dinner jackets. Not necessarily the whole thing, but a dinner jacket with a faithful reproduction of the iguana already sewn onto the shoulder. A bit like a pirate in his fake parrot or something, but to have a Franz Sanchez jacket with the iguana there, I think could be a whole heap of fun, and just a bit of silliness, and you could play that. It could make a great part of the fancy dress costume. It wouldn't be difficult to do, would it, if you already had that? So a Franz Sanchez necklace jacket option. Sorry, yeah, a prop iguana. Also, I've got it in 2 parts there. So the proper iguana with the diamond necklace, but also I'd kind of like the fun option of having the jacket with a iguana already attached. Yeah, it did make me chuckle when I thought about that one. Another fun little basic one, you know, you've seen Factory Entertainment have done the gear stick for the Aston Martin Goldfinger edition, where you flip the top, you got the red button, so on and so forth. I was thinking, because Q went out on edition with Bond, we could have Q's broom radio, which he kind of twists and the aerial pops up and he contacts Pam Bouvier saying that they're on the move, sort of thing. And then the last two items for this video on this list is two playsets. So playsets are going to feature a lot. I think the Bond franchise over the years has been robbed, and kids have been robbed of playsets growing up. You have them for, well, the biggest one, isn't it, is like Star Wars and so on. But you know, as time goes on, I'm sure there's probably playsets for other franchises such as Lord of the Rings, Star Trek, you know, Marvel, DC. It's about time Bond really got on the playset market, in my opinion. So, from License to Kill, the Wave Crest and Sentinel project playset. So you'd have the Wave Crest, you'd have a couple of the kind of extravagant looking sort of mini boats that were there. You'd have some figures that are just like divers, and then some models of key characters such as, you know, Milton Crest himself, Bond. Pam weren't there, was she? But the other leading lady was. I've gone blank again. It will come to me if it don't. Forgive me. But to have that play set, I think that would be cool. The other play set that I would look at would be Professor Joe Butcher's Temple stroke Drug Factory. That would be pretty epic. So you could have some, you could potentially have like another tanker the size that I've got in the cabinet there, which is like only so big, and you scale up the playset itself. But to have that kind of South American temple exterior, and you open it up and the factory's inside, you could have like also a jeep with Stinger missiles. You could have, obviously, you know, the key characters again, mainly Bond, Dario, Sanchez, and the finance guy, whose name I have also forgotten. It's quite a unique one, but no, they're both names have escaped me at the moment, purely because my brain was on overload in coming up with like the ideas and so on and so forth. I suppose the beauty of live, someone could have commented and told me, but I've made some right boo-boos in the past recording some of these videos, so I'll stick to recording for now until my live confidence appears from somewhere. So with that being said, next up will be Pierce Brosnan and his 4 movies. So again, doubling up on merchandise ideas for the future on that one. But I'm sure these gentlemen might have something to say. I guess we should find out, shouldn't we? Oh, it's still not stopping. Unbelievable. So, Tim, what did you make of that? I can't believe you've got the nerve to try and do impressions of us, to try and sell yourself to your audience. You must be scaring the living daylights out of them. How rude. How about you, Robert? Do you think he's being a little bit harsh on me, old Tim? Hombre, don't take it personal, my friend. It is just business.
Thanks.
I am so sorry, folks. those impressions were probably just best laid left in my brain somewhere because the pressure's on, isn't it? It's like Brosnan next, and then we're moving into other territory with Connery, Moore, and Craig. Um, who knows what nonsense will come out of my mouth for that and what it will sound like more than anything else. But look, today, as always, has been an absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed it. As I've said, I've really enjoyed watching the Dalton films. I'm looking forward to next moving on to Brosnan. Not too sure when that one will come out. There's other things already being recorded, in the process of being recorded. So, but they will happen, and we'll take it from there. So, with that being said, I just want to say thank you. So, leave a comment, a like, a share, subscribe. The whole word of mouth thing. Spread the word about this lunatic who talks to his friends here. And ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go and have myself a coffee by the looks of me, and I will see you next weekend. Take care, everybody. Love you lots. Bye bye.